The grand halls of the Valorian palace shimmered with golden light. Tall pillars carved with alien symbols stretched toward the ceiling, while glowing crystals cast soft blue radiance across polished marble floors. It was a place meant to inspire awe, but for Princess Liara it had always felt like a prison. She stood quietly near one of the tall windows, gazing at the horizon of her world. The sky shimmered in shades of violet and orange, and far in the distance the glowing rings of her planet arched gracefully overhead. To her people it was a beautiful sight, a symbol of their greatness. To her it was a reminder of how small she truly was in her father's empire. Liara had been raised as a princess, taught to speak with elegance and to bow her head in respect before the throne. But no amount of training or grace could hide what her people whispered behind her back. Sterile, worthless, a princess with no heir to give. Those words followed her like shadows, echoing in the hallways, murmured in court gatherings, even in the way servants looked at her when they thought she could not see. The truth had been discovered when she was very young. The physicians of the palace had tested her, using their advanced Valorian science, and declared her incapable of continuing the royal line. In their society, where heirs and bloodlines meant everything, such a mark was worse than shame. It was exile. Even if she lived inside the palace walls, her father, King Aurelian, never spoke the word sterile in her presence. But his eyes told her everything, cold, disappointed, as if she were nothing but a mistake. He spoke to her when duty demanded it, but he never called her daughter with warmth. On this day, however, something different stirred in the palace. Voices carried down the halls. Footsteps echoed. Guards moved with purpose, standing taller than usual. Liara turned from the window as the sound of marching boots grew louder. A servant entered, bowing quickly. "Your Highness, the king summons you to the throne room." Her heart tightened. Being summoned rarely meant anything good. She followed, her silver gown trailing softly across the floor. The throne room was vast, filled with nobles, courtiers, and soldiers. At the far end upon the high dais sat her father. His crown shimmered with gemstones, his long cloak of crimson and black cascading down the steps. His golden eyes, sharp and piercing, locked onto her the moment she entered. Next to the throne stood tall figures in strange uniforms, humans. They were guests, emissaries from Earth, here for a diplomatic meeting. Liara had seen humans only from a distance, never up close. Their appearance fascinated her. No shimmering skin like the Valorians, no glowing eyes, but plain features that carried something her people often lacked: warmth. The leader of the humans stepped forward. He was a man with dark hair, silver at the temples, and steady eyes that revealed both caution and kindness. His uniform bore the insignia of the United Earth Fleet. This was Commander Elias Gray. King Aurelian raised his voice, commanding silence. "Today, in honor of the alliance between our peoples, I present a gift to our human allies, a token of our goodwill, a bridge between our worlds." He motioned toward Liara. The room grew still. Nobles whispered. Some smirked, already guessing what the king intended. Liara felt her chest tighten as her father's next words cut through the air. "My daughter, Princess Liara, shall accompany Commander Elias Gray and his fleet as a sign of our lasting friendship. From this day forward she will live among them, a representative of our bond." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Liara froze. A gift? She was being given away like an object, traded as though her life had no meaning beyond political symbolism. Commander Gray looked startled. His brows furrowed, and for a moment he glanced at Liara, not with scorn but with something else. Concern. "Your Majesty," Elias began carefully, "this is unexpected. A life is not a token. Are you certain this is your wish?" The king's expression hardened. "It is more than a wish. It is my command. She will be safer among your people than useless here." His voice dropped colder. "She has no future in this palace. Perhaps she may find one among the humans." The words pierced Liara like blades. Her father had spoken her worthlessness aloud, in front of both her people and strangers. Heat rose in her chest, but she dared not show emotion. She lowered her gaze, her voice trembling as she answered, "As you command, father." The court watched in silence. Some pitied her, others sneered. To them it was fitting. What else could be done with a princess who could not carry heirs? Elias Gray, however, was not like them. He stepped forward, his tone respectful but firm. If she's to come with us, then she will not be treated as a gift. She will be treated with dignity. Do we have your word, Your Majesty? King Aurelian gave a dismissive wave of his hand. Do with her as you will. She is no concern of mine. And with that, the matter was settled. That evening, Liara was escorted to the human ship. She walked through the docking bay, her heart heavy, her mind storming. The Valorian guards marched stiffly at her sides, but she noticed the humans who awaited her. They did not look at her with disdain. Some offered small smiles, others nodded respectfully. It confused her. Commander Elias himself greeted her at the ramp. His voice was gentle. Princess Liara, welcome aboard the Endeavor. You are safe here. Safe. The word echoed strangely in her mind. No one had ever said it to her before. He guided her through the ship, explaining each section. The medical bay, the command deck, the crew quarters. Unlike the cold, glittering halls of the palace, this ship felt alive. People laughed softly in the distance, worked together with purpose, and spoke to one another with ease. Liara's quarters were modest compared to her palace chambers, but Elias personally showed her the controls, the view screen, and even a shelf of books translated into multiple languages. If there is anything you need, he said, you need only ask. You are not a burden here. Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, but years of being told otherwise held her back. Still, she whispered, thank you. That night, as she gazed out of the window at the stars, Liara felt something stir inside her. For the first time, she wondered if her life might not be over. Perhaps among the humans she could find a new beginning. Meanwhile, back in the palace, King Aurelian sat upon his throne, his hands clenched. To the court, he had rid himself of a useless child. To himself, he believed he had protected his legacy. After all, what threat could a sterile daughter pose if she lived far among the stars? But deep in the shadows of fate, the truth waited. A truth neither he nor his people could see. That the daughter he had cast away would soon hold the key to a future he could never control. The Endeavor moved quietly through the endless sea of stars. Its engines hummed with steady rhythm, like a heartbeat guiding the crew through space. For Liara, every sound, every detail of the ship was new. She had lived her whole life in the Palace of Valor, surrounded by silence, whispers, and judgment. Now she was surrounded by humans, being so different yet strangely welcoming. At first she stayed inside her quarters. The chamber was simple compared to her palace rooms, but something about it felt warmer. The bed was smaller but comfortable. The air smelled faintly of metal and recycled oxygen, yet it carried a sense of safety. She often sat near the window, staring out at the stars, wondering if she had truly been discarded forever. But Commander Elias Gray had not forgotten her. He came often, sometimes bringing food, sometimes just checking if she was adjusting. His kindness unsettled her at first. No one had ever looked at her without hidden judgment. No one had ever asked if she was comfortable. One evening he knocked gently at her door. "Princess Liara," he said, "would you like to see the common deck? Some of the crew are curious to meet you, but they will not force anything. Only if you wish." Liara hesitated. In the palace, every gathering was a place of whispers and sneers. Yet something in Elias's voice made her curious. Slowly she agreed. The common deck of the Endeavor was nothing like the cold halls of her home. Humans sat at long tables sharing meals. Some laughed softly at stories. Others studied data pads, while a group played a game with moving pieces that shifted across a glowing board. When Liara entered, the room grew quiet. Dozens of human eyes turned toward her. She stiffened, waiting for mocking whispers the same way her people had treated her. But instead, something unexpected happened. One of the younger crew members stood, smiling kindly. "Welcome aboard, Princess. We're glad you're here." Another added, "If you ever want to join our game, we can teach you." Liara blinked, unsure how to respond. They were not looking at her like a broken thing. They were simply treating her as part of the crew. Elias guided her to a table where she tasted human food for the first time. It was simple, bread, vegetables, something they called stew, but it carried a warmth that palace feasts never had. She listened quietly as the humans spoke of their families, their missions, their dreams. They laughed without fear. They disagreed openly, yet with respect. Something stirred inside her chest. So this is how humans live. Days turned into weeks. Liara began to walk the ship more freely. She asked questions about the controls, about the stars they passed, about the strange machines that hummed in the corridors. The humans never mocked her questions. Instead, they smiled and explained patiently. Elias often walked with her, telling her stories of Earth. He described blue oceans stretching farther than sight, forest full of green life, skies where birds soared freely. Liara listened with wide eyes. Valor had beauty too, but it was beauty locked in tradition and rules. Earth sounded alive. One afternoon, Elias brought her to the medical bay. Dr. Mara has been asking if you'd allow some simple health checks, he explained. Nothing invasive. She only wants to ensure you are well. Liara froze. The word doctor reminded her of the palace physicians, of the cold instruments and colder words that had branded her as sterile. Her hands trembled slightly, Elias noticed. His voice softened. You are safe here. No one will harm you. And you can refuse. The choice is yours, choice. No one had ever given her that before. Slowly she nodded. Dr. Mara, a middle-aged woman with gentle eyes, welcomed her warmly. Princess, I promise, I only wish to check your health. We will explain everything before we do anything. The tests were simple. Scans, small samples, questions about her diet and sleep. Nothing like the cold examinations of Valor. When it was done, Dr. Mara smiled. You're in good health, she said. Better than I expected, actually, but there's something unusual. Liara's heart jumped. Unusual? Mara hesitated, then continued carefully. Your people declared you sterile, yes? But our scans suggest otherwise. Your biology reacts differently under human medical analysis. There are signs that reproduction may not be impossible for you. In fact, it may only require the right conditions. Liara stared, unable to breathe. For years that word had defined her, sterile, worthless. Now this human was telling her it might not even be true. Elias placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Listen to me. Whether you can or cannot have children does not define your worth. You are valuable for who you are, Liara, not for what others expect you to be. Her eyes stung. No one had ever said such words to her. She whispered, Why do humans see me this way? My people look at me and see failure. You look at me and see more, Elias smiled faintly. Because humans know what it means to struggle. We know that life is not just about perfection or bloodlines. It's about choice, courage, and what we build together. That night, Liara sat alone in her quarters, turning those words in her mind. Could it be true? Could the curse that had followed her since childhood be nothing more than a mistake of alien science? She felt hope, fragile and uncertain, flicker inside her. The next day she returned to the common deck. The crew welcomed her again, this time less cautiously, as if she had already become one of them. She sat with them, listened to their stories, even tried their game with glowing pieces. To her surprise, she laughed softly but genuinely. It was the first time she had laughed in years. Over time, Liara began to open up. She told the humans about her home, about the palace halls and the heavy weight of expectations. She did not tell them everything. Not yet, but enough that they understood, and in return they did not pity her. They respected her. One evening, a young engineer named Aaron asked her, Princess, may I ask you something? Do you want to go back to Valor someday? The question struck her. For a long moment she was silent. Then slowly she shook her head. No, Valor is not my home anymore. Perhaps here among the stars I can find a new one. The crew smiled, nodding in quiet agreement. But the galaxy does not stay silent for long. News travels quickly, even across the void. Whispers began to reach the Valorian palace. Whispers that the sterile princess had been seen walking freely among humans, that she smiled, that she laughed. Some said she might even bear children after all. When these rumors reached King Aurelian, his fury shook the throne room. Impossible, he roared. She was cast aside because she could not continue the line. She cannot be allowed to bring shame or worse challenge to my throne. His advisors bowed low, careful not to meet his burning gaze. One whispered, Yet, Majesty, if it is true, if she carries potential for heirs among the humans, this could change how the people see her. The king's fists tightened. He had thought he had rid himself of her forever. But if she became a symbol of hope among his people, his rule could be questioned. The very thought made his blood burn with rage. He stood, his voice cold as iron. Summon the fleet. If she dares rise from the ashes I cast her into, I will crush her myself. Unaware of her father's growing anger, Liara continued to walk her new path aboard the Endeavor. She studied, learned, and laughed. The humans had given her something she had never known before, dignity. But fate was moving, and soon, the difference she had discovered among humans would become the very reason her father turned his eyes back toward her. The Endeavor glided through silent space, its silver hull shining faintly under the glow of distant stars. To most of the crew it was just another voyage, missions, reports, patrols. But to Princess Liara, every day aboard was like stepping into a new world. She had once believed her life was over when her father gave her away as a gift to the humans. Yet here she was, walking freely among them, treated as if she had worth. For the first time in her life, she was not defined by the word sterile. Still, the discovery from Dr. Mara stayed in her mind like a spark she could not ignore. Not sterile, maybe not broken after all. The thought filled her with hope, but also with fear. If her father ever learned, would he try to take her back? Not out of love, but out of control? One quiet morning, Liara joined Commander Elias Gray on the observation deck. The wide glass wall revealed the stars, glittering like jewels scattered across the black canvas of the universe. Elias stood with his hands behind his back, his uniform neat, his posture calm. "You've been thoughtful lately," he said, glancing at her with gentle eyes. Liara hesitated. Dr. Mara's words, they keep echoing. All my life I believed I was nothing because my people told me so. Now suddenly I hear I may not be broken. It feels impossible. Elias nodded. Sometimes the things others declare as impossible are only limits of their understanding. Your people believed one truth, but human science found another. She turned toward him, her silver eyes uncertain. But what does it mean? If it is true, if I can have children, would that change how my father sees me? Elias's voice was steady. It would not change who you are, and it should not decide your value. Liara, whether you can or cannot bear heirs, you are already enough. Her chest tightened at his words. They sounded so simple, yet they carried more weight than all the speeches her father had ever given. Life aboard the Endeavor grew busier for Liara. She joined the crew in small duties, helping in the mess hall, assisting with organizing supplies, even learning to read star maps. At first she stumbled, but the humans encouraged her instead of mocking. One evening, a young engineer named Aaron showed her how the engine cores worked. "It's not so different from your people's ships," he explained. "But we humans had to learn through trial and error. That's why we're good at adapting," Liara smiled softly. "Adapting. That is not something Valorians are known for." "Maybe that's why you fit in here," Aaron said. "You're learning to adapt too." Her heart warmed at the thought. She had always been told she did not belong anywhere. Yet here among humans, she was beginning to feel the opposite. But news traveled through space faster than light. The rumor of the discarded princess who now lived freely among humans began spreading across colonies and trade routes. Some whispered she laughed again. Others claimed she might even hold the key to hybrid heirs. Eventually, those whispers reached Valor. Inside the great palace, King Aurelian sat upon his throne, his golden eyes burning with fury as his advisors reported. "They say the humans treat her with honor," one advisor said, "that she is respected among them. Some even whisper she may give them a child." The king slammed his fist against the armrest. "Lies. She is sterile. Worthless. I had her tested." "Perhaps," another advisor said carefully, "but human medicine sees differently. If the rumors are true, Majesty, then she may not be as barren as we believed. And if she bears a hybrid child," the words hung heavy in the air. The king's jaw tightened. He saw it clearly now. If his people began to believe Liara carried a future, then his throne was in danger. She could become a symbol he could not control. "Prepare the fleet," he growled. "If she dares rise from the ashes I cast her into, I will bring her back. By force if needed." On the Endeavor, Liara was unaware of her father's brewing rage. She spent her days learning more about humans, asking endless questions. Why did they smile even when tired? Why did they laugh at mistakes? Why did they speak so freely even to their commanders? Elias explained gently. "Because we see strength in imperfection. We know life is fragile, so we choose to live it fully. We don't hide behind masks of pride. At least not most of us." His words stirred something deep within her. For the first time she realized that strength was not just about power or lineage. It was about choice. One night, unable to sleep, Liara wandered to the medical bay. Dr. Mara was there, working quietly. When Liara entered, Mara looked up with a soft smile. "Can't sleep, Princess?" Liara shook her head. "I keep thinking, if what you said is true, then everything I believed about myself was a lie." Mara's voice was gentle. "Not a lie, Liara, just incomplete. Your people's science saw one part of the truth. Ours saw another. But listen carefully, your worth was never in question. Even if you were sterile, that would not change your value." Liara lowered her gaze. "Then why does it matter so much to my father?" "Because rulers fear what they cannot control," Mara replied softly. "And you, Liara, are beginning to realize that your life is your own. That makes you dangerous to him." The princess fell silent. Dangerous. The word frightened her, yet it also gave her a strange strength. The next day, a message arrived, an encrypted Valorian signal intercepted by the Endeavor. Elias read it with a grim expression. "What is it?" Liara asked, sensing the tension. He met her eyes. "Your father, he knows. He has ordered ships to move. He intends to take you back." Her chest grew cold. "Take me back?" "After he threw me away?" Elias's voice was calm but firm. "Not out of love, Liara, out of fear. If what Mara discovered becomes public, you are no longer worthless in his eyes. You are a threat to his throne." Silence filled the room. Liara's hands trembled. For years she had longed for her father's approval. Now she realized his return for her was not love, it was control. She straightened, her voice steady. "I will not go back. I will not be his tool again." Elias nodded, pride flickering in his eyes. "Then we will protect you. But understand, Liara, this choice will put us against the Valorian king. Are you ready for that?" Her heart pounded, but she lifted her chin. "I am ready. For once I will choose my own path." The days that followed were tense. The Endeavor prepared defenses, checked weapons, and adjusted their course. Liara trained with the crew, learning how to use basic tools and how to defend herself. Though she had never been trained for war, determination burned in her heart, and yet fear lingered. At night she asked herself, could she really defy her father, the most powerful man of Valor? Could one discarded princess truly stand against a king? But every time doubt grew, she remembered the faces of the humans, the kindness of Mara, the laughter of the crew, the steady strength of Elias. They had shown her she was more than her father's judgment. Perhaps the impossible was no longer impossible. Finally, as the ship drifted near neutral space, a shadow fell across the stars. Valorian warships, sleek, black, and bristling with power. The King's fleet had arrived. The Endeavor's alarm sounded. Crew members rushed to stations. Elias stood firm at the command deck, his eyes locked on the screens. "They're demanding we surrender the princess," a lieutenant reported. Elias looked at Liara, who stood at his side, pale but unshaken. "What do you want me to say?" he asked her quietly. Her voice trembled but held strength. "Tell them. Tell them I am not theirs to claim. I belong to myself." Elias gave a firm nod, then turned to the comms. "This is Commander Gray of the Endeavor. The princess is under our protection. She is free and she chooses to remain with us. We will not hand her over." The line went silent for a moment, then crackled with the voice of King Aurelian himself. "You dare defy me, human? She is mine. She will return to Valor, or you will all burn." Liara stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "No, father. I will not return. You cast me aside and I found strength without you. You cannot chain me again." For a heartbeat, silence filled the bridge. Then the king roared with fury, and the Valorian ships began to move. The impossible had become possible. Liara was no longer a broken, discarded princess. She was a voice of defiance, a symbol of choice, and now her father's empire trembled because of it. The void of space glittered with stars, but between them loomed the dark shapes of Valorian warships. Their sleek hulls shimmered like black glass, sharp edges glowing faintly with energy lines. The fleet was vast, larger than the Endeavor by tenfold, and each vessel carried the strength of the king's authority. On the command deck of the Endeavor, alarms rang softly. Lights flashed red across consoles. Crew members moved quickly, yet their faces showed calm discipline. They had trained for moments like this. But for Liara, her heart beat faster than ever before. She stood near Commander Elias Gray, her silver eyes locked on the sight of her father's warships. Once she would have bowed before that sight. Once she would have felt fear and shame. Now she stood tall even as her hands trembled. "They're hailing us again," reported Lieutenant Harris. Elias gave a short nod. "Open channel." The screen flickered to life, revealing the throne chamber of Valor. King Aurelian sat upon his high seat, his golden crown gleaming, his expression hard as steel. His golden eyes burned with fury as they fell on his daughter. "Liara," his voice thundered, "you will return at once. This game ends now. Step forward and obey, or I will burn that human ship to ashes." For a long moment, silence held the deck. Every human crew member looked at Liara. Elias turned to her, his voice calm but steady. "This is your choice. Whatever you decide, we stand with you." Liara felt her chest tighten. All her life she had been told she had no choice. But now she did. She lifted her chin, her voice clear and strong. "No, Father, I will not return. You cast me aside, called me worthless, gave me away as if I were nothing. But here I have found strength. I will not let you chain me again." The king's face twisted with rage. "You dare defy me?" "You are my blood. You will obey." Liara's hands trembled, but she stood firm. "Blood does not make loyalty. Respect does. You gave me none. These humans gave me what you never did. Dignity." Gasps echoed faintly across the king's throne room. Even through the transmission, Valorian nobles could be seen whispering, their eyes wide. Aurelian roared, "Prepare the fleet. Destroy them if they resist." The screen cut to black. The Endeavor shook as energy readings spiked. Valorian ships moved into formation, surrounding them like a predator circling prey. "Commander," said Harris, "we're outnumbered. They'll tear us apart if we fight head-on." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we don't fight head-on. We buy time and we make them question their orders." He glanced at Liara. "This is more than a battle of ships. It's a battle of voices. Are you ready to speak again?" Liara swallowed hard. Fear pressed against her chest, but beneath it burned something stronger. "Resolve." She nodded. "I am ready." The Endeavor broadcast across the fleet. Liara's image filled the communication channels of every Valorian ship. Soldiers, officers, and even captains froze as her voice reached them. "My people," she began, her voice clear but gentle. "You know me as the daughter cast away. You know the word that has followed me since childhood, sterile, worthless, a mistake. But what if that word was never true? What if your king's truth was not the whole truth?" Whispers rippled through crews across the fleet. Liara continued, her courage growing with each word. "I was given to the humans as a gift, an object, something to be discarded. But they did not treat me as nothing. They treated me as one of them. And with them, I discovered something our own physicians never told us. I may not be barren at all. I may yet carry the future our king denied." Her words spread like wildfire. Valorian soldiers looked at one another, their certainty faltering. If the princess was not broken, if she could truly bear heirs, then what did that mean about the king who discarded her? On the command deck, Elias watched the sensor readings. Several enemy ships hesitated, holding their fire. But the king's voice cut through the hesitation. "Do not listen to her lies. She is weak. She is nothing. Obey your king." Liara lifted her chin, her voice sharp now. "If I am nothing, why do you fear me so much, Father? Why do you send fleets across the stars to silence me? The truth is this. You fear me because I am free." Silence followed. For the first time, the Valorian fleet did not move in perfect unity. Some captains whispered to their crews. Some paused, their weapons uncharged, but not all. One of the warships broke formation, charging forward. Bright beams of energy lanced toward the Endeavor. The ship shook violently, sparks flying across the bridge. Crew members scrambled to keep systems stable. "Shields holding," shouted Harris, "but barely." Elias's eyes hardened. "Return fire, target only their weapon systems. We're not here to destroy, we're here to show we won't be broken." The Endeavor fired. Blue streaks of energy struck the attacking warship, knocking out its forward cannons. The vessel drifted back, disabled but not destroyed. "Another ship moving in," cried a crewman. But before it could fire, a second Valorian vessel blocked its path. Its captain had turned against the order, protecting the humans instead of attacking. On the comms, a voice rang out. "The princess speaks truth. I will not raise weapons against her." Chaos spread across the Valorian fleet. Some ships followed the king's order, charging their cannons. Others hesitated, their captains torn between loyalty and doubt. A few openly sided with Liara, refusing to attack. The king's fury thundered across the fleet channels. "Traitors, You will all burn with her." But his anger only revealed his fear. Liara stepped forward again, her voice steady. "I am not here to destroy my people. I am here to show them another way. My worth is not in heirs or bloodlines, it is in choice, in courage, in hope, and if I can find that hope among humans, then so can we all." Her words carried into the silence of space, filling every ship. On the palace world of Valor, civilians watching the broadcast began to whisper. Some wept, some shouted, but many felt something they had not felt in years: belief. Perhaps the princess was not broken after all. Perhaps she was the future their king had denied them. Back in space, the standoff grew tense. The king ordered his most loyal ships forward, but they met resistance from his own divided fleet. Shots were exchanged, but not all were aimed at the humans. Some Valorians now fired at each other. The king's image appeared on the broadcast again, his face red with fury. "Liara, you will regret this. You will destroy everything." Liara stood tall, her voice quiet but firm. "No, father. You destroyed everything when you chose power over love. I will build something new." Elias looked at her with pride. She had gone from a frightened girl cast away to a leader standing before fleets. The Endeavor shook again as another blast struck near. But the humans and their unexpected Valorian allies held their ground. Hours passed like fire and thunder. Ships clashed, not in full war but in confusion and rebellion. The king could not command his fleet as he once had. Doubt had poisoned his throne, and his daughter's voice had carried truth further than his anger could silence. Finally, as the battle slowed, the king's flagship withdrew. His face appeared one last time, dark and vengeful. "This is not over. You may think yourself free, but I will not rest until you are mine again." The transmission cut. His remaining loyal ships followed him into retreat, leaving behind a fractured fleet and a shaken empire. Silence filled the command deck of the Endeavor. The crew looked at Liara, their faces filled with respect. "You did it," Aaron said softly. Liara shook her head. "Not yet. My father still holds the throne. But for the first time, he fears me. And for the first time, I do not fear him." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "You stood against him, Liara, and many of your people stood with you. That is the beginning of change." Liara turned to the stars outside, her heart steady. Once she had been a broken princess, discarded and shamed. Now she had become a voice strong enough to shake a king's empire. The conflict was not finished, but hope had been born. The galaxy was quiet after the storm. The battle in the void had ended, but its echoes still reached far across star systems. The king of Valor had retreated, but not in defeat, rather in rage, gathering his strength in silence. And on the human vessel Endeavor, Princess Liara stood at the edge of a new chapter in her life, her heart both heavy and hopeful. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the ship. Damaged panels sparked, shields hummed weakly, and the medical bay was full of those who had fought bravely to protect their home. Yet the humans smiled even through exhaustion. To them, survival was victory, and unity was strength. Liara stood by the viewport, her silver eyes gazing at the endless stretch of stars. For the first time, she did not feel small before them. She felt as if her voice could carry across them, as if her choices could shape their light. Elias approached, his dark uniform marked with burns from the battle. He carried himself with calm strength, but his eyes were gentle as he looked at her. "You changed the course of the fight," he said softly. "It was your words, not our weapons, that held back the king." Liara gave a faint smile. "I never thought I could. Once I believed I was nothing more than what my father told me. But now I know he was wrong." Elias nodded. "He fears you now. And fear makes tyrants dangerous." She turned her gaze to him. "Do you think he will return soon?" "He will," Elias said with certainty. "But when he does, he won't just face humans. He'll face his own people too." Whispers of changed news spread faster than the king's fury could contain. Across Valorian worlds, citizens whispered the story of the worthless princess who had stood against her father. Some called her a traitor, but many more called her something greater: hope. In secret halls, Valorian nobles debated. Some still clung to the king's power, fearing his wrath, but others questioned his right to rule. If Liara truly was not barren, if she truly could lead, then perhaps the throne had chosen the wrong heir. Messages slipped through the cracks of the king's control. Some reached the humans hidden inside encrypted channels. They carried quiet promises. We will stand with her if she returns. We will fight for her if she calls. Liara read them with shaking hands. It was strange, after so many years of being ignored, that her people now looked to her. Part of her wanted to run from it, but another part, stronger, fiercer, refused to. I cannot be only a voice, she whispered one night. I must become more. The king's fury on Valor, King Aurelian, paced his throne room. His crown sat heavy upon his head, but he wore it like armor. His golden eyes burned with wrath. She dares defy me, he growled to his advisors. My daughter, my blood, standing with humans like an equal. I will crush her voice before it poisons the empire. One general knelt. Your Majesty, many captains question your commands. Some hesitate. If you strike again, the fleet may not obey fully. The king slammed his fist against the throne. Then I will remind them who their king is. Prepare the royal guard. Prepare the fleets that remain loyal. We march not only to destroy humans, but to silence the name of Liara forever. But even as he spoke, cracks spread through his empire. Every order he gave was followed with less certainty. Every show of force was met with whispers of rebellion. He ruled with iron, but iron rusts when exposed to truth. A choice to lead back aboard the Endeavor, Elias gathered the crew and Liara for a council. Around the table, holographic stars shimmered, showing both human and Valorian territories. The king is wounded, Elias explained. But a wounded beast is most dangerous. He will come again, and when he does, we cannot simply survive. We must decide, do we stand only in defense or do we push for something greater? The crew murmured among themselves. Some argued for retreat, others for diplomacy, others for war. Then Liara spoke. If we wait, my father will only grow stronger. If we fight blindly, we will lose. But there is another way. They turned to her, silent. My people are not loyal to him alone. Many already doubt. If I return not as a broken princess but as a leader, they may follow me, not because of blood but because of hope. If I stand, they will rise. The table was still for a long moment. Then Aaron, the young pilot, grinned. Sounds like you're planning to start a revolution. Liara shook her head. No, not a revolution. A new dawn. Elias studied her, his eyes deep with thought. It's a dangerous path. If you claim that role, you won't just be a voice anymore. You'll be a target. The king will hunt you until his last breath. Liara lifted her chin. Then let him. I am done running. Return to Valor, the Endeavor set course for Valor. As the great planet grew on the horizon, its twin moons glowing like silver eyes, Liara felt her chest tighten. This was her homeworld, the place that had rejected her. To return now was to walk into danger, but also into destiny. When the humans entered orbit, Valorian fleets moved to block them. But not all fired. Some held their ground. Some transmitted secret signals of support. The Empire itself was divided. A broadcast channel opened. The king's face filled the screen, dark with fury. You dare return? He thundered. You bring humans into my skies and you think my throne will bend to you? Liara stepped forward. She did not tremble. Her voice rang clear. I do not seek to take your throne, father. I seek to free it. You rule with fear, but fear no longer holds me or our people. They will choose what is right, not you. Not me, them. Aurelian's golden eyes blazed. Then let us see who they choose. The clash of thrones, the skies of Valor erupted in light. Loyalist ships fired upon human and rebel allies, while other Valorians turned their guns upon their king's fleet. The planet's upper atmosphere became a storm of fire and shadow. On the ground, civilians gathered in cities, watching the battle above. Many prayed. Many cheered. For the first time in years, they dared to hope for change. Liara stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, her heart steady despite the chaos. She was not the frightened girl of before. She was the voice of something greater. Elias gave her a nod. This is your moment. Liara opened a channel to all. Her face filled the skies, every ship, every screen on Valor. My people, she cried. The time has come to choose, not between human or Valor, not between father or daughter, but between fear and hope. Between chains and freedom. I am Liara, your princess once discarded. I will not demand your loyalty. I will only ask you this. Will you follow a king who fears you, or will you walk with me into a new dawn? Her words struck like lightning. Some ships ceased fire immediately, joining her side. Others faltered, confusion spreading. The king roared in rage, ordering destruction, but fewer obeyed. Finally, A great flagship of the royal fleet turned its guns, not on humans, not on rebels, but on the king's own vessel. "The princess is our future," its captain declared, and with that the tide turned. The king's last Standarilian's flagship fought fiercely, its cannons blazing. But even his loyal guards could not withstand the storm of united ships. Fire tore across the skies, and his golden crown gleamed one last time upon the burning vessel. Before it fell, his voice rang across the comms. "Bitter, furious, unbroken. You may think you have won, Liara, but know this: kings fall, but empires hunger. You will carry my burden now, and it will crush you." Then the transmission ended. His ship, engulfed in fire, vanished into the clouds below. A new dawn, the battle ended. Silence returned to the skies of Valor, broken only by the cheers of those who had dared to hope. Ships lowered their weapons. Civilians filled the streets with voices of triumph. On the Endeavor, Liara stood at the viewport, her reflection glowing in the starlight. Elias came to her side. "It's over," he said softly. Liara shook her head. "No, it is only beginning. My father was right about one thing. I carry the burden now, but I will not carry it alone." She turned to the humans around her, then to the messages flooding in from Valorians pledging their loyalty. "For the first time, I am not nothing. I am not broken. I am not worthless. I am Liara of Valor, and with my people and with my human allies I will build something greater than fear. I will build a dawn." Elias smiled faintly. "Then let's make it real." The stars shone bright outside as if the galaxy itself bore witness. Once a young alien princess had been discarded as sterile, given away as a worthless gift. But now she stood as the spark of a new era, bridging two species, defying a throne, and proving that hope could outshine even the darkest crown.